Welcome back to Lockdown Universe, some of the bizarre, peculiar, and unheard of stories of UFO legend and paranormal lore. Welcome back, welcome back. Happy to be back. Hopefully you guys are doing well and taking care of yourselves. Another day, another beautiful day to be alive. So, man, this light is crazy. So anyway, I know this light is just not great, is it? Anyway, I wonder if I can reflect it off of there. Does that help? That doesn't help nothing. Anyway, welcome back. We're going to talk about dinosaurs not existing. That's right. Dinosaurs don't exist. I don't believe that. But apparently that's what Candace Owens believed and still believes. And for those of you who don't know Candace Owens, she's like, a far right advocate, Charlie Kirk advocate and all that. And I'm not going to get political, but I just want you to know who she is, right? And she came across my feed, and I was like, she was talking about not believing in dinosaurs, and it got me thinking. I'm like, did somebody pull the wool over our eyes? Did we not see this coming? Are there not dinosaurs? Did somebody fabricate dinosaurs and it was just made up for us? What the hell happened? So I had to do some investigation, find out why she believed this and if there was any veracity to her claims. So what she said, and this was in a, I don't know, some sort of podcast setting. So I was watching it. It was just short. It was like one of those shorts that you see that are only like 60 seconds, right? So I had to do some chat GPT and find out what she said. So she said she questioned whether dinosaurs actually existed in the way scientists described them in older live streams and in social media discussions. She suggested the idea of dinosaurs might be not only exaggerated, but might actually be misrepresented, period. They might not have existed. She stated that China was found to have fabricated a bunch of fake fossils. And China, if you don't know, dinosaurs fossils are found primarily in America, in Colorado and Wyoming, primarily in China as the biggest location of historical fossil records, and also in Mexico, where the Chicxulub crater is, where the crater that supposedly came down and destroyed dinosaurs smashed into it right in almost in like the kind of curve of the Gulf of Mexico down there. And that is what took out the dinosaurs. But it did not take out all living things. As a matter of fact, small primates did exist and permeate throughout the world and continued to live and allowed us to continue to evolve from them and evolve on primates' own and continue the monkey family. So all the great apes were able to come from these small little primates that were able to burrow under the ground. Amazingly, that's how things survived, because there was basically a nuclear winter for 200 years after the dinosaur, the meteor that smashed into Earth and killed off the dinosaurs. Basically created a nuclear winter for 200 years, and then after that we had species start to evolve again. And the only way to do that was for some of them to survive. I was thinking to myself, I said, well, how could they survive? How could anything survive that if there was some sort of nuclear winter that had a nuclear, basically like a black cloud over the sky that killed off all the vegetation and nothing could survive? But underground, things can survive. Under the water, fish did survive. Yes, they do need certain things from the outside of the ocean to survive, but in the depths of the ocean, things can survive, and things are right. Amazing things can survive. Think about the tardigrade, the cute little teddy bear that they're trying to extract DNA from, because a tardigrade is like super, super small, but it can survive the most challenging environments that everything else would die in. It can survive in space. It can survive without breathing for months. It's like insane. And it can be frozen. It can be boiled. It can survive. So we're trying to extract that and put it into our own DNA now. But that's what made me think. I was like, well, if dinosaurs really got annihilated, how would anything else survive? They burrowed or they flew, because the flying dinosaurs, the avian dinosaurs they call them. I can't think of avian dinosaurs. I'm just thinking of flying dinosaurs. They could survive, and they did. So like the pterodactyl and things like that. But let's go back to like the scientific consensus is what ChatGPT says. So there's overwhelming scientific consensus that dinosaurs did in fact exist. Evidence includes millions of fossil discoveries worldwide. Her argument was that all the people that were finding the fossils were either related to a what are the Ross Gellers called, the dinosaur doctors, the archivists of the fossils, and archaeologists. She said they were either directly archaeologists or directly family members of archaeologists, and that was the only way that they were being found. That no people are just running into them. And I said, well, yeah, that is interesting, but at the same time, there's not a lot of motivation for people to go out digging and looking for dinosaur bones, because they're only in certain places, and I mean they could be valuable, but you'd have to find the right people to buy them. The only ones that are like truly valuable that you see a lot of like in auctions and things like that are the ones that are like the heads, right? The heads are what people want. People that have a ton of money, football players, artists, musicians, superstars, rock stars. They want the weird, cool shit to put in their house because they got shit tons of money. They don't know what to do with this. So they buy shit like that. And I was watching an episode of Entourage, and they were doing an auction for a T-Rex head. And back in 2006, a T-Rex head was going for auction for $250,000, which I thought was a steal. I thought it would be worth a lot more than that. But $250,000 back in 2006, you move it up to today's time, I mean, you're talking probably $1 million, right? So anyway, we go back to the scientific consensus, more scientific proof that dinosaurs did exist. Radiometric dating of the rock layers. That's how they find out where to dig. They have to do the carbon dating of the rock layers to find out how old it is. And once they find that out, they know where to dig. Consistent anatomical patterns across the fossil finds. So when they find the same species of dinosaur, it is consistent across the board. So if they find a T-Rex, it looks like the other T-Rex. If they find, what is that? The Ankylosaurus, the one that has the spikes on its back, that thing's so cool. Or a Brachiosaurus, the ones that are super long and tall. They all follow and fit a pattern. And there's links between dinosaurs and modern birds. Now, dinosaurs lived approximately 230 to 66 million years ago. So it's a big range. They lived almost about 150 million years from span to span. Going extinct after the asteroid impact marked the end of the Cretaceous period. Why her claim got attention? So the dinosaur existence is considered one of the most well-established areas of paleontology. The reason she kind of, started talking about it was she's like, well, they only started finding bones in the 1840s. And that, I mean, we should have been finding them before that. Well, if you do the research and you Google it, they do say that there are people that found dinosaur bones before 1846. It's just they didn't really know what they were, and they didn't have a complete record, right? So you could find a huge bone, you think it's a freaking huge human giant, not a reptilian, from like millions of years ago. Very few public figures question this outright. There are some weird people out there, and I mean, I guess I shouldn't call them weird, but there's some people that have far out thinking, which is fine because we here and in the conspiracy world do have far out thinking too. But most people believe that it's true. I don't say believe what you get fed all the time, but I do believe there were reptilians. Okay. And we'll get into that in a second. Reptilians meaning dinosaurs. So Owens has also made provocative and contrarian statements on other topics. In many cases, critics argue that her comments are rhetorical or part of a broader ideological critique of institutional authority rather than detailed scientific arguments. So, yeah, let's have ChatGPT give us a little bit more information. So, how do we know they existed? They have found millions of fossils on every continent, they say. Complete skeletons, eggs with embryos inside. That sounds like some Jurassic Park type stuff. Skin impressions, footprints. These aren't just loose bones. Many are found articulated. They're actually connected to themselves correctly in geological layers that match other known ancient life. So I mean, this isn't just somebody making a story up. I mean, we have the bones. They are in museums. They've been identified by multiple different scientists and science interested individuals. And this is like way before aliens became a problem for the military cover up issue, right? The military cover up really came in the 1940s, late 1940s, right? 47, 45, just depending on which crash you want to talk about, Roswell, or you want to talk about the other New Mexico crash. There's a few of them, and you could argue that, but it doesn't matter because that's 1940. We're talking about 100 years before that. So yeah, they started finding them in the 1840s and before. So some of these fossils are really cool because they show little reptilians. Like there's baby ones, there's like little baby raptors that were impressed into rock. There's large reptilians that were impressed into rock. So the museums, what they do is they use casts for their display. So some people will argue that, they're not real because those aren't real bones right there. Well, they're not going to probably put the real ones out because I don't want somebody to just come up in there. What if somebody comes up in there and just starts blowing them away or using an axe on them or something like that and just gets pissed off because they don't believe in dinosaurs, or they don't want people to believe in dinosaurs because they're religious fanatics or something like that. So they're not going to put that out there. Fossils are independently verified across countries. Carbon dating only works to 50,000 years is the second claim, is that carbon dating can't work that far back. Well, dinosaurs are dated using uranium, lead, and potassium argon dating, which works for millions of years. Now, see, you learn something new every day right here on Lockdown Universe. Uranium, lead, and potassium argon dating. That's really interesting stuff. I personally didn't know that. And claim 3, no one has ever seen a dinosaur. Well, that might be true, but we have seen reptilian aliens, haven't we? It's true, they're extinct except for birds, but we also haven't seen ancient whales or early humans. We rely upon the physical fossil evidence, which we have lots of. So let's go, I mean, there's lots of reasons to think that something doesn't exist because you haven't seen it. But for the fact of the matter is that we rely upon evidence in science to prove something existed, right? So we have evidence of crashed ships because Mr. Marcel found his little piece of his crash ship with the I-beam on it, and we have people that have video, and we have people that eyewitnessed their own abductions or have undergone hypnotic regression. So these are testimonies. But we also have, what do we have? That's right, tracking devices in us, right? Implants. So there's lots of evidence for aliens. Now let's go back to the questioning of the evidence for for dinosaurs. To fake dinosaurs globally, scientists across dozens of countries for 200 plus years would need to coordinate fabricated fossils, fabricated geological strata, fake dating systems. They'd have to fake evolutionary biology, which is a big factor, without credible whistleblowers or contradictions. And that's extraordinarily unlikely. And I agree with them. If you like, it says they can also explain the dinosaur killing asteroid and how that was discovered. Sure. Now, see, on this one, I don't think it was an asteroid. I honestly believe that the reptilians, right, the reptilian race that we see today, was using Earth as a DNA development zoo. And they probably use a lot of planets like this. And they say, this is ours. And according to whistleblower reports, this is what they say. They say that these whistleblowers have been told that the reptilians were using Earth as a breeding ground. And they argued and got into a disagreement with Nordics and other species around our galaxy and our solar system. And they did not want them to continue these experiments. And so they started using weapons. And the weapon was this copper nuclear weapon. And they basically bombarded Earth with it. And it hit in the Chicxulub crater of Mexico. And when it hit, it annihilated all of the reptilians. And it released certain chemicals that would certainly kill all of the reptilians on Earth. And when it did that, it allowed other species to survive because the Nordics or whatever other species was involved, including the Nordics, did not want Earth to just be completely obliterated. They knew Earth was a precious gem and wanted to keep it that way. But they definitely wanted to take out the reptilians, who are not nice. They don't agree. They don't want to agree with anybody. They conquer by force, and they don't play nice with anybody. They're like, this is our land. Well, if you blast their land, they don't have much land left, and now they're pissed. And now we've put up a fight. When you put up a fight, chances are the bully stops bullying you, and they move on and they move somewhere else. Now, there's been many reports that the reptilians have gone underground as well. Tall reptilian, humanoids that are much taller than humans, that are 14 to 15 feet tall at times. Others could be 6 to 8 feet tall. Again, this is millions of years of evolution we're talking about. And the reptilian species as a whole, the cold-blooded reptilian, continues to this very day. We have Gila monsters. Those things are humongous. And the Gila monsters are fucking scary as hell because if you ever look up, Gila monsters or, they have the little guys, of course, but the Komodo dragons are the ones I'm actually talking about. The Komodo dragons are huge, and they're the largest land lizard there is. And they only live on a few certain select little islands, right? And those things, when they bite into you, they've evolved so much that it immediately paralyzes you. Tell me another species that does that. Now, there's lots of venom in snakes, but they're also reptilian, right? These reptilians are fucking straight up evil, man. They're predators, monsters, and they are the largest lizard on Earth that secretes enough venom to kill a human and has iron-tipped teeth. Dude, these things are fucking scary, and that's what I think. And they got huge claws and shit. Man, fuck that. They can run 12 miles an hour. Fuck that. I can't run 12 miles an hour. Anywho, so let's get back to what the chat can help us with about the dinosaur killing asteroid. Because I think that's an interesting concept. Let's look at that real quick. So the dinosaur killing asteroid, the KPG extinction event, happened about 65 million years ago in the Yucatan Peninsula in Chicxulub. Now, if we pop open the old map here to give you a little bit more info, that's in Mexico, of course, right? How do we know it happened? That's an interesting one. Around the world in rock layers, there marks an extinction boundary that scientists found unusually high levels of iridium, that is a metal that's very rare on Earth. It's common in asteroids, though, and if you find that sediment in the rock layers, then a massive asteroid hit. This discovery was made in 1980 by physicist Luis Alvarez and his son Walter Alvarez. who proposed the asteroid impact theory. So the asteroid impact theory has only been around since 1980. That seems a bit much. The minerals found globally show microscopic damage patterns that only form under extreme pressure, like a massive impact. The crater itself, in the 1990s, geologists confirmed the buried Chicxulub crater matched the age of the extinction exactly. So that's where they believe it hit. The chain reaction likely included global firestorms from superheated debris, massive tsunamis, and dust and sulfur that blocked the sunlight. That's what we're talking about, like the nuclear winter. Impact winter. Temperatures dropped dramatically, which doesn't usually affect reptilians too much, but they are cold blooded. They need to be around heat in order to keep their bodies warm. So that is the problem, right? And it collapsed the food chain because the plants died. So the plant eaters starved, and therefore the meat eaters starved. So the only way for something to survive would be to go underground. Unfortunately, the reptilians, and the dinosaurs were too big to go underground, so they died. And there was immediate devastation around the Chicxulub crater. The global ecosystem collapsed over months and years, and we had some species lingered briefly before disappearing, which is just totally amazing that they could actually track this stuff. I mean, that's what blows my mind. So, so there you have it, right? Now, like I said, I mean, do I believe that species could exist? Reptilian species could have survived it? Yeah, they could have gone underground. They could have had bases already here. So they could have gone buried underground, but without their children, their huge fat children on the top of the surface, they couldn't bring them down probably. But they could have buried themselves, or they could have taken off on their ark, their ship, and gotten away from Earth while this global firestorm was going down. Now, that's what's truly interesting, because we hear a lot about the reptilians basically going from planet to planet and dominating every species and every planet that they go to. They don't ask for permission, they just do it. Meanwhile, you have about 95% of the rest of the species in the universe that pretty much get along like the UN, the United Nations, but you have about 5% that just are bullies, and these guys have to be punched in the mouth. That's what you got to do with a bully. So they back down. Even if you get beat up, you got to punch a bully in the mouth, because they won't respect you until you fight back. Even if you lose, you have to fight back, which sucks, because nobody wants to get beat up. But if you don't fight back, you're going to get beat to shit for the rest of your life. So not a fun way to live life. So that's what a lot of these whistleblowers have said. The Nordics fought back because either right, the reptilians were probably not following the protocol of the Intergalactic Federation. Maybe there were certain, breeding requirements that only allowed them to breed certain sizes, or to not outbreed the native species of the planets, or not to, you know what I mean? Like, kind of like how humans are doing. We're outbreeding and kind of causing a lot of pollution and all this stuff. We have to stay within a homeostasis of nature versus our expansion. And many presidents talk about expanding humanity, and even Elon Musk expanding to Mars. Well, if we expand, we have to also understand that we have a footprint that we leave behind. We have to manage our drainage on the resources. And I think probably those dinosaurs were overdoing on the draining of the resources. They were probably running around eating every meat source available, and back then reportedly they had like a woolly mammoth type entity, and they were probably scarfing those things up like their little granola bars. They were probably scarfing up, fish. They were probably scarfing up themselves. It's a dog eat dog world out there sometimes, and sometimes you gotta, it, animals will feed on themselves too. Just look at wolves. Wolves will go and they'll eat a small dog easily. That's why if there's a wolf sighting in a community, the community will acknowledge that to everybody in the community to bring in their small dogs, because the wolves will just come right through the gates. They'll jump the fences, and they'll just scarf up a dog. 'Cause they're hungry. They need to eat. Even though it's their own species, I don't know if they understand it or not, but I think hunger doesn't care. So there you have it. Um, yeah, yeah, this is an interesting one. Why did mammals survive, but large dinosaurs didn't? Now, this is what my question was, because I was like, if I can't answer this question, then it doesn't make much sense. But see, mammals, um, yeah, size was a huge factor. That's the factor. So mammals were basically small mouse sized. Dinosaurs were large. When the food chain collapsed, plants died and blocked out the sunlight. Large animals needed a large amount of food. Small mammals needed fewer calories. They could survive on seeds, insects, which were already in the ground, roots, and carrion. And they could hide more easily. The large dinosaurs couldn't just downsize their energy needs, so they had to die. The mammals buried themselves, lived underground. They were nocturnal, so it really didn't matter to them. So it protected them from the firestorms, the heat pulses, the falling debris, the temperature flexibility. They had fur insulation. The reptilians didn't. The reptilians were cold blooded. Mammals are warm blooded, so we're able to manage our regulate our internal temperature, which we're able to do with ease. Flexible diets. The meat eaters of the dinosaur world had to eat meat. That's what their focus was for the most part. There was some vegetarians, but mammals had shorter lifespans than the reptilians. They reproduced quickly though, and they matured pretty fast. So they were able to adjust quickly. The large dinosaurs, they took years to reach maturity. They had to lay exposed eggs in their area, so they couldn't lay exposed eggs in a fire burning earth. And they had a slower population recovery. So after the mass die off, a fast reproduction is crucial. And if you can't quickly reproduce, you're dead, right? And that's exactly what happened. But but some dinosaurs did survive, like the avian dinosaurs. So like your pterodactyls, for example, did survive. Now this is an interesting topic because Emery Smith, who's on Gaia, and other whistleblowers report that there are pterodactyl looking aliens that are in and below the secret underground military bases or deep underground military bases known as DUMBs. And they're S2, S1, you have S4, you have Area 51, you have Sandia Labs, you have many of these bases, and underneath these bases, you have even Dulce Base, you have multiple floors. And in each floor that you go lower is more secretive and more secretive and more secretive and requires different clearance. But in the lower floors, they have the most hidden and most protected aliens. Now, these pterodactyls might not be aliens, they might indeed be native to Earth and have previously lived on Earth. The whistleblowers state that they help us understand knowledge, wisdom, and history and esoteric and ethereal thought processes of not only humanity but also spirituality. That's their intended goal. So these guys are like spiritual teachers, and they are pterodactyl like. He says Emery Smith and other whistleblowers stated that they needed a wide berth hallways to be able to walk down the hallway because they did have feet, but they had these huge wings that sometimes they needed to stretch out, or they tried to tuck them in as they walked, but they were communicating telepathically and helping humanity develop the best case scenario for the Earth and for themselves. So isn't it interesting that a flying pterodactyl type dinosaur that might have lived millions and millions of years now might be engaging with humanity and helping us not to annihilate ourselves as a species, because all of these aliens and higher evolved beings don't want us to use their nuclear weapons. because nuclear weapons are going to cause our demise, so they won't let us use them anymore. Why did crocodiles survive? Yeah, isn't that interesting too? Well, crocodiles, we know why crocodiles survive, because they can survive underwater and be frozen and live it through the winter. They could be literally frozen in the ice. They could stick their nostrils up and breathe air, or they can most likely hibernate. That's going to be my guess. Is like cryogenically freeze themselves underwater. They reduce their metabolism and survive. But I'm going to see exactly what they say. So, 75% of the species died. The crocodile ancestors survived. Here's why: the semi-aquatic lifestyle. So water buffers their temperature swings. The aquatic food chains survived, and the rivers and lakes were partially shielded from the global firestorms. So there you have it. Plus their extreme metabolic efficiency, which is exactly what I said before. They need far less food than warm-blooded animals. They can survive months without eating, and they can slow their metabolism dramatically while they're in the ice. So they can survive it. They can wait it out. And they do have a flexible diet. They can shelter in the water. They can bury themselves in mud. You know, it's interesting. My friend who went over to Iraq, he stated that he was security forces, and he said there's all these holes in the desert floor, in the desert, right? So where they're at, even near the bases, it looks like artillery shells, like 50 artillery shells hit into the berms of the sand. And he's like, they're just dub-dubs. And I'm like, what the hell's a dub-dub? I'm thinking like a W or something like that, or some new music producer. He said the dub-dubs are little lizards that bury themselves in the sand to cool off so they don't get bombarded by the heat. So they have rapid cooling as well. But yeah, crocodiles survived. So when you look at a crocodile, that's a motherfucking dinosaur. And some of them motherfuckers are big too. There's been some video that's come out, I don't know, in the past 15 years, not recent stuff, but like maybe 10, 15 years ago, where there's this huge huge crocodile walking on the golf course. And people were freaking out, and this thing was a monster, dude. I mean, it was way bigger than your standard croc, and this thing's just walking around. It's fucking hysterical. And so it just goes to show there are some real monsters out there, some real dinosaurs out there still. They're not just gone, and we have proof of it in the fossil records and in the iridium and in the testings that they do. So yeah, there's lots of proof out there of dinosaurs, and the science that we use to figure it out is real. So you don't have to worry about dinosaurs not existing or possibly not existing. They exist. So yeah, I just thought it was fun to explore this topic, because I was like, well, I don't want the wool to be pulled over my eyes. I want to find out the truth too. What if they've been pulling a big sham on us for a while? I mean, there's so many shams that different people have pulled over on us over the years and decades and centuries and millennia, that we need the truth. So this is good to see that there's multiple different scientists all over the world making sure that what we think is the truth. So what do you think? Dinosaurs real or not? Put your comment in the comment section. Love to hear what you have to say. Please take care of yourselves spiritually, physically, and emotionally. Follow through on your hobbies and your goals and your dreams. And as always, continue to question the universe around you. Until next time, guys, take care of yourselves. And as always, Lockdown Universe out. See you next time.